Hi, this is Angus here with my CustomEngine project. This was the final project that I made for the game development course at Fanshawe. So there's multiple features I'm going to be going over here. I'm going to run the game first so that we can kind of see what it looks like. It's more of an engine than it is a game, hence the name. And I'll just try and get a good distance away from those guys so I can pause and talk about it. Okay. So, to start with, there's the frame buffer objects. The first FBO, which I'll go into the code now, and we can have a look here. There are 4. The scene is rendered ordinarily to an FBO, and then these 2 are used for the bloom effect, which can be kind of hard to notice with this, unfortunately. And then it's all finally rendered to a final FBO, and what we get on the screen is actually a quad that has this final output as a texture. So if we wanted to, we could add additional effects to it. There is supposed to be a bloom effect on the sword. It's kind of difficult to see. There's a more noticeable one after I kill an enemy, so we'll take a look at that in a bit. Actually, I'll just kill an enemy now. Just real quick, the controls. The mouse, you can move it around to rotate, and left click to attack. The character will move in the direction the mouse is facing. Okay, so we've got an enemy here. Just going to try and kill them really quick. There we go. You can see these paint globs kind of hit the ground, and can we see the blur effect, the bloom effect from here? This might be in a bit of a bad position for it. Okay. Well, I'll try and just kill these guys then. And that fire particle effect comes from dead enemies. Okay, here we go. So you should be able to see that kind of bloom as we go over the paint. It requires the lighting to hit it pretty specifically, but there we go. The depth map next. Oh, the bloom, of course, is it comes from a Gaussian blur. So the blur A blurs it horizontally, blur B blurs it vertically, and it just gets passed between these two. So we get the whole scene, blur it horizontally, then take that, blur it vertically, go back to blurring that result horizontally, so on until we get the final result. So the depth map, like this, it can't really be seen, but if we rotate around so that the light kind of really hits the texture, we can see that the ground texture has a depth map to it. There seems to be a depth to these bumps. As I said, BulletPhysics was used to create collision shapes, rigid bodies, and all of that. I made a custom callback as well, and collision masks to speed things up. And all the controls are based around the object's transformation matrix in the BulletPhysics world itself. So it's not as though the graphics don't represent the physics. They should do pretty accurately. The AI, the enemies will rotate and move towards the player if the player is close enough, and attack the player if they're closer still, and they can take damage and die, as you've seen. For animations, it uses FBX files with characters and animations that I obtained from Mixamo, and the player and the enemies, they're all animated. And the paint splatters is the final thing to talk about. So when an enemy dies, you've seen the paint splatters hit the ground. The paint globs hit the ground and then they splatter. And this is done by essentially just drawing a small plane object at the collision position and then randomly selecting one of 2 black and white patterns for the paint, picking randomly whether we're going to have blue or yellow, fill that in, and then with a specific pass into the shader, we loop over that texture and we disregard any pixel that is white enough, and thus only the black pixels are drawn, and they're not drawn black, they're colored in with whichever texture we chose. Or, sorry, whichever color we chose. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. These spheres were really just here for testing. We can see that the sword, which is not an FB, the sword for the enemies and for the player is a separate ply model that's being mapped to a specific bone in the character's FBX model. So if I wanted to, I could, in theory, make a different weapon and map that to that bone and then bind a hotkey like a tab or something to swap weapons, and it would work just fine. And you'd see this character holding like an axe or something. But I didn't do that when I made the project, so this is just what it is for now. But yeah, there you go. That is the custom engine that I made with C++, OpenGL, and BulletPhysics. Thank you for watching.